In the quiet suburbs of Frederick, Colorado, on a street like any other, stood a cheerful home with pale siding and smiling family photos on the walls. The Watts family. Shannon, a mother full of fire and devotion. Bella and Celeste, two little girls who danced through the halls like light itself. And Chris, the man who stood behind the camera smiling, but whose heart was already rotting. On August 13, 2018, at exactly 1:48 a.m., Shannon Watts returned home from a business trip, unaware she was walking straight into the arms of death. She entered her home, barefoot, pregnant with their unborn son, Nico. What happened in the next few hours would never be seen, but the echoes still scream beneath those floorboards. Chris attacked, his hands around her throat. Her last breaths fought through betrayal. Her unborn child, never given a name on this earth. And then, Bella and Celeste. The girls woke to silence and confusion. One by one, they were taken, strapped into their car seats, driven to the oil field, where their tiny voices still haunt the wind. They asked questions, they pleaded, they trusted, and then he ended them with his bare hands, slow, deliberate, inhuman. He forced their small bodies into crude oil tanks. The lids slammed shut, and with them, he thought he'd buried the truth. But truth has a way of seeping through. The morning of August 13, 2018, Chris Watts stood in his kitchen, cool, composed, his wife's body buried shallow in the earth, his daughters melting in oil. He brewed coffee. He smiled at the neighbors. He texted Shannon's phone, as if she were still breathing. By 12 p.m., Shannon's friends grew worried. No response. No appointments made. No baby heartbeat check. So they knocked, and when no one answered, they called the police. Dispatch, we're going to make entry. The home was still, too still. Her purse was there, her car, her medications. But Shannon was gone. And Chris? He arrived shortly after, with the mask of panic plastered to his face like a child's Halloween costume. He told them they were missing. He guessed maybe Shannon had left with the kids. He cried, but the tears refused to fall. And the world was watching. The father, Chris Watts, pleaded publicly for their safe return today. But behind closed doors, the seams of his story began to tear. Text messages, affairs, search histories, all pointed to the monster hiding in the ordinary man. And still, he lied, until they sat him in a chair, hooked wires to his body, and asked one question: did you physically cause Shannon's disappearance? The needle screamed louder than his words. He failed, miserably, and the walls of lies began to crack. Soon, the ghosts came knocking, in the corners of the interrogation room, in the pit of his chest. Their voices, quiet but clear. Daddy, no. Why? The guilt festered, and the truth bled out. Chris finally confessed, but not to the full horror. Not yet. He said Shannon killed the girls, and he lost control. Even in confession, he sought escape. But the dead do not lie, and soon, their full story would claw its way out of the grave. They gave him a Bible, a room, a mirror, and silence. Chris Watts, husband, father, killer, sat alone. But he was never truly alone. For weeks, the walls of prison held more than just a man. They held the weight of ghosts. 3 tiny shadows clung to his every breath. A woman stood behind his every blink. Their eyes, never blinking. Their presence, never fading. And finally, he spoke. In a chilling second confession, Chris told the truth. All of it. She didn't hurt them. I did. They woke up. They saw. They cried. Bella's last words? Daddy, no. Celeste's? Too young. Too confused. He smothered them both, one after the other, while the other waited. He buried Sean Ann in a shallow grave, at an oil site he knew well, then forced his daughters, his flesh and blood, into tanks meant to contain crude and deathless decay. He left them there, alone, in the dark. The world recoiled. The trial was swift. Chris Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences. No chance of parole. But justice doesn't raise the dead. The house on Saratoga Trail? It still stands, empty, unsold, windows cold with memory, and sometimes neighbors swear they hear footsteps, a door creak, a child's giggle, or a whisper. The walls remember, the shadows linger, and the spirits of Bella, Celeste, Nico, and Sean Ann still seek the love they were promised. But all they find is silence.